And he came, and he came to the belief that the individuals who are running these governments, they may be bought and paid for, but when you put them before a camera, when they don't have their handlers and they don't have their teleprompters, they have a tendency to say stupid things. Going back to what you were saying about the chemical weapons in Syria, if most people don't remember, but John Kerry, Secretary of State John Kerry, came out and said that an interviewer asked him, what would it take for the United States to stop going after Assad in Syria? And Kerry, thinking that nothing would come from it, said, well, all Assad has to do is give up his chemical weapons. Boom. Russia jumped on it, and both Syria and Russia publicly said, hey, we'll give them up. Here you go. And that was the coup that the United States either had to pull out or they were going to be proven to be a rogue nation. And they pulled out.
And because whatever happened with that, because they never
changed course from bombing Syria to then we saw what came of Benghazi.
Because they were supposed to go in and check for chemical weapons, and they were supposed to get rid of whatever they had. And then I don't remember that ever happening. Did that?
Well, it pretty much, yeah. I mean, because the 24-hour bought and paid for media, they just gave up on it because the U.S. wasn't going to get anything out of it. They just moved on to something else, and these things occurred over the next few months.
So did it actually happen that they supposedly got rid of the chemical weapons? Or even though it came out that it was the rebels at the time that used the chemical weapons?
Yeah, but the rebels did not use the chemical weapons. See, Syria didn't have chemical weapons on its own. When Iraq was being attacked and Saddam Hussein got killed, all those chemical weapons that were in Iraq crossed the border.
Didn't the CIA or the U.S. government help them, or they're the ones who really did it, or something like that?
No, because they allowed it to happen because...
But didn't they assist in getting them the chemical weapons?
Oh, yeah.
From Iraq?
The U.S. got Iraq the chemical weapons to fight in the Iran-Iraq decades-long war. So if you think about it, nearly everything that we blame these countries for were actually our fault.
Well, they're not my fault, but they're the U.S. government's fault. But so...
The plurality of our.
Right. However you want to put it, for you is fine. But I was just born here. I don't know. And then I grow up, and then suddenly I'm being extorted and harassed, and I'm living basically as a low-level slave just on a huge plantation.
That's why you got to set yourself, your individuals, your small community, because trying to fight City Hall is like Don Quixote going after windmills.
Yeah, so you still kind of never answered that question. As far as non-compliance, and the problem is, of course, is you need a certain amount of people. If one of the examples I gave to somebody was like a license plate. So I got something caught in my throat, but so say because of the fact that, they say that license plates are supposed to be used for one thing, but they're capturing images of them with license plate readers, and we say, look, we're not going to comply with this. This is bullshit. Now, if I just take my license plate off, of course, they're going to pull me over and give me a ticket, and probably being that it's me and they look up my arrest and that I was arrested for obstruction of an officer a couple times, they'll look at that as, I'm, a troublemaker and whatever, and, probably arrest me or beat me up or something like that. But if 10,000 people in Las Vegas do it, there's not a lot they can do.
No.
So
there's only a couple things that people have actually banded together to stand up. One is the threat after every Sandy Hook, after every Boston Marathon, when the government tries to pushed through these pseudo gun control laws, the people have stood up and fought back, and they've won.
Not everybody. Well, with Boston, they didn't stop anybody from with martial law from coming in their fucking house after the Boston bombing.
Boston is already subjugated.
Well, I grew up there, so obviously
everybody in the East Coast, New Yorkers, they're subjugated. Oh God, yeah, they don't stand up to their government at all. It's only in the West, or Texas, the Western mentality.
South.
Yeah, but even the South is pretty much, most of the places are subjugated.
But, I think it would be hard to obviously get that many people to get together on something.
You want to know the reason why?
But, I was going to say one thing was the chemical weapons thing. The reason why I think that didn't happen is because there were a lot of people calling, and I think Obama was more worried about his image and his legacy. So he was like, okay, if anything, I'm going to have Congress vote on this.
Yeah, but the thing is John Kerry stupidly opened his mouth.
You think that's why it kind of stopped it?
And I guarantee that John Kerry's got a tongue lashing from the powers that be for saying that. Now, the interesting thing, too, is, did you see what Congress voted today with veto-proof power? Unbelievably, both Democrats and Republicans voted in the House. It's got to go to the Senate, but they've got enough veto-proof to stop the Syrian refugees from coming into the country.
So how many were supposed to come in, and what do they have to do that? So is it a bill that has to go through Congress? Is that...
Well, see, obviously we know Obama will write any executive order that nobody stands up against him.
Right.
Okay, and Congress before has, first when the Democrats had power until 2010, 2012, when the Democrats controlled all houses plus the presidency, anything went through. He could write any executive order, nobody cared. Then, of course, Boehner's a paid tool.
Boner.
Boehner, when he passed the most recent budget bill, the media won't tell you this, he got $5 million from some source into his campaign fund. Well, if he's retiring, why the hell has he got a campaign fund? Because the rules have been changed for the oligarchy that they can use these campaign funds to open offices after they get out of
retire,
Congress, pay their expenses, yada, 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 yada.
That's nice.
So, yeah, like I said, there are two sets of rules.
Well, it's like the insider trading thing where Congress can, do whatever with insider trading. Well, we're kind of not out of time, but we only got about 35 minutes left. So I want to make sure we get to the attacks in France and we're starting to get to the refugees. So that's fine. I wanted to cover that. So with that, was it going to be an executive order? And now you're saying that
it wasn't going to be an executive order. He was just going to do it. And now Congress has passed, or the House has passed. It's got to get through the Senate. And if it's veto-proof, then they can't bring him in. But you got to remember something. The State Department is trying to say that they could vet all these people, and yet
right.
a lead official in the FBI and a
supposedly
lead official
they have no
DHS
data though
said that it is impossible to vet these people. So,
right.
Obama's own administration is saying that they can't do it. Obama's saying that they can do it. But the point is that the number that's came out is 10,000. But Obama, about a month and a half ago, came out and said he's going to start bringing in 100,000 refugees per year.
That's a lot. So what is the rationale? Well, he's going to be gone pretty soon, but what is the rationale behind that?
It goes back to what we started this conversation with, divide and conquer. You're bringing in people who are not going to
assimilate.
Exactly. And that's why they've opened the borders. Because the people who came in through Ellis Island and came in through the immigration, they wanted to be here. They wanted to be Americans. The ones who are coming in now are just trying to flee bad situations.
But I don't have any.
They want to.
I don't have any problem with people from, especially Mexico, because the government. I mean, they make it so hard for somebody to come over, and I don't think people should have to ask permission from a government to, travel freely.
Because you don't understand reality in this point only. Cultures have been divided by themselves for thousands of years. Okay, Muslims and Christians do not assimilate naturally. Okay, the Spanish did not assimilate with the Dutch and the British, and they've been at war for so many years. Cultures do not assimilate very well. Okay? It's a natural course of just humanity. So when you bring in all these different cultures unsanitized without a purpose or goal, then you're going to, if you go to Mexico, Mexico is corrupt in its entire culture, from the politicians who are corrupt, to the military that's corrupt, to the local governments and principalities are corrupt, and the people are corrupt. Not all of them, but it's a cultural thing. Okay? And if you're bringing people into a new location that is completely different, where there's a rule of law and there is a much different moral standard, then you're going to have instances where, how many illegal aliens are in prisons for rape, murder, burglary, and violent crimes? A huge number. Okay, is it just because they had to, they couldn't get a job, so they were stuck doing this? No, it's ingrained in a large portion of the culture, and they're getting away with it. I mean, they're getting out of Mexico. I ran into something when I was in Omaha, when I was in the military. In North Omaha, it's a predominantly black, not quite a ghetto, but it's the seedy part of town. And I found out that a lot of those who moved into North Omaha in the 70s were from the East Coast. They were from the ghettos of New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia.
Moved to Omaha?
Omaha, Nebraska. They supposedly, the single mothers wanted to take their kids and to try to start a new life and get out of the ghetto from the East Coast. Okay. But the problem was that they created their own ghetto in North Omaha, and it's a crime-ridden thing.
How could you afford it then? Like, what are you changing? Obviously, if you're not going over there to get a job and make more money and change it that way.
If you are brought up in a culture that is a certain way, just because you leave a location does not mean that you change.
So what is the end game here then within the U.S.? Is it to totally destabilize the country and start some kind of civil war?
America is the last true bastion standing up against the world, at least in the West, going towards a one-world government. Europe is already acceded. That's what the European Union was. It was an experiment. We're going to take these individual nationalized countries and we're going to put them under an unelected government. That's what the European Union is. It's an unelected government.
Right. I heard the plan was
corporations and banks.
To split it up initially into like three different, like the EU and then Asia and then North America. Yeah. And then merge everything together. And I was actually, I don't know if you heard me talking about this report that they all put together. It's like 81 pages. I had read it a couple years ago, but it's called like I can't fucking open it. Okay. It's the date is 2015, but they wrote it way before that. So it was called a New Global Partnership, Eradicate Poverty and Transform